What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise Live, presented by BetUS. Today, we have some interesting things to talk about, Eric. As you can see on the ticker, we're not even really going to, spoil it. You can guess what we're going to talk about based on what is on the ticker, okay? One of them pretty obvious, okay? And that's the topic of this show, the headline of this show, and that is Joe Cronin getting called out, Eric. We don't know by who, but maybe there's some guesses. And you can try and guess them in the chat if you want. But we got a few things to get to before that. First off, Eric, how's your Monday treating you?
Oh, it's not too bad for a Monday. How about yours, Tori?
Very busy. Very busy. Very hectic. Very hectic. So happy to sit down, stream, and talk some Blazers basketball. Well, it's not really basketball. Blazers rumor mill, I guess. We found things to talk about. I had no idea what we were going to talk about. I messaged Eric before this show, and he came up with some good ideas. So looking forward to diving into some of these things. Going to try and keep it under an hour today. Trying to keep these shows a little bit more jam-packed for you guys. But we should have content for this full hour. Chat, how was your weekend? What'd you do this weekend? How are you doing? Let me know in the live chat, and also check out BetUS in the description. Eric, the first thing we're going to talk about is the rumor mill getting stale, so to say. Or, as you put it, the same rumors getting recycled. So what rumors were you specifically mentioning?
I don't know. You just every once in a while someone posts a thing like, "Oh, Blazers are wanting 2 first-round picks for Jerami Grant," or "Lakers unwilling to give up 2 firsts for Jerami Grant," or "Not many teams are interested in D'Angelo Russell," and like it's like all this stuff we know already, right? Blazers eventually will move on. Oh, sorry, I might have spoiled one down the line. Eventually, we'll move on from DeAndre Ayton, um, which, like, as Blazer fans have been talking about since they drafted Klingon. I don't know. It just seems like these are all things that we've been talking about now for 2 or 3 months since the season ended.
Yeah, man, I mean, it's people trying to recycle the same stuff for clicks, even though this stuff has been clicked on many of times. I mean, we've heard all this stuff we've been saying for 2 months now, or almost 2 months now, that Blazers want 2 firsts for Jerami. Teams don't want to give up 2 firsts for Jerami. And this feeds into some topics down the line. But at this point, really, there's nothing substantial that we've heard in the last month. At all. Maybe the most substantial thing that we heard was Fentress saying the goal is to move one of Jerami Grant or Anthony Simons this offseason, but they might not. And also, logically, it does make sense to move one of those two because ultimately you probably want to start Scoot, you want to start Denny, you want to start Sharp. You only have one other starting spot for Ant or Grant. And if they're both on the team, they're both going to start, so that means one of the aforementioned 3 are going to be brought off the bench. I don't think the team really wants to do that, and also I think the team is going to embrace struggling next year. Anthony Simons and Jerami Grant are only going to help them be better. I don't think that's their goal. I think they're looking at this 2025 NBA draft with big ol' eyes, thinking, man, this is where we get our next superstar, okay? This is where we get our next Damian Lillard. But instead of having to pay him $52 million, Eric, we might only have to pay him $9 million because, Jody Allen loves to pat her pockets and loves those rookie contracts, right? So, ultimately, nothing substantial recently. Now, of course, if there is something substantial, we'll tell you it's substantial. But right now, just a lot of talk that doesn't mean much. And speculation and, people getting called out and whatnot.
Yeah, I feel like it's exactly the same as it was when we first brought this up prior to the draft. It's like Jerami will only be traded if the Blazers get their asking price, and no team so far has been willing to match that or come close to it. So, I just think they're going to be stuck in a holding pattern until then. And we can argue, which we have discussed ad nauseum here, about whether Cronin should have that stance, like meet my demands or else. And we'll definitely get into that when we talk about an executive calling him out. But I think for me personally, I think it's still just a matter of, Joe Cronin cave in to what he is asking for Jerami Grant, and that will be the difference between whether or not Jerami gets traded this summer.
Yeah, it's just kind of the same conversation over and over again. It's getting a little bit stale, hence the title of this segment.
But as for Jerami,
yeah. I mean, there is something new, I guess, but also, I don't know, Eric, is it something that you want to hear before we even get into this? I heard this and I kind of groaned a little bit. Did you have the same reaction? Chat might not even know what we're talking about. We'll tell you guys. But Eric, did you have the same reaction? Was there a part of you that was like, to what we're about to talk about?
I don't think I was like, I was just like, man, we're not going to trade him, are we?
Exactly.
Guy, right?
Exactly. Well, that's exactly where it comes from.
It was more like that. But I have said this many times on this show. I do and will always respect Jerami for being the one, like, star, I use that term loosely, uh, player that was willing to come here and at least try to make it work with Dame. And it's not necessarily his fault. The team gave up on that process almost as soon as it began. We saw them when they were healthy for 14 games at the beginning of the season do some damage, and it's a shame we didn't get to see them build upon that at all. They took stuff away that later that season. So I will always respect Jerami for wanting to come here and play with Dame. I do think it's a little weird when he already has this in his past in his career where he left Denver for the same amount of money to go to Detroit and play on a crappy team for a couple of years. And then he gets traded here. Like I said, we're trying to be good for, 2 weeks. and then now we suck again. I do think it's a little weird. Like, why do you want to stay here? Like, why don't you want to go win somewhere? But I guess not all players are like that. So
he left Denver for Detroit. We should not be surprised by this at all.
Right.
Apparently, Eric, he likes stability, as there was a report by Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports that Jerami Grant doesn't want to get traded. And this contradicts a report that we heard a couple weeks ago. Or maybe it was only a week ago. I don't know. Time is weird in the offseason, But there was a report that Clutch Sports and Rich Paul, who represent Jerami Grant, were trying to get him to the Lakers. So this is a little bit contradictory. Or maybe Rich Paul is trying to do LeBron James's bidding instead of Jerami Grant. Weird little conundrum there. But the quote says, "Few players want to face the general uncertainty of moving mid-season, especially those who have enjoyed newfound stability for the first time in their careers. That has been the same word about Portland forward Jerami Grant," sources said, despite rival teams' interest in the veteran Trailblazer. Part of the reason why I groaned at this was like, how is this the most stable spot in Jerami Grant's career, considering he's only been here 2 years? He was in Detroit for 2 years. I know he was only in Denver for 1, but before that, how many years was he in OKC, Eric? Let me count. What? 2.5. No, it was 2.5. It was longer than he's been here. And before that, he was in Philadelphia for 2.5. So this is his third longest tenured stop. I don't understand. How this is any more stable, especially when you look at the roster makeup and he doesn't fit into the future of it. So I was a little bit baffled as to the phrasing of that. Because I don't think this is a stable situation. And even if he's back next year, I feel like it's going to be another one of those years where he gets traded and he spent another 2.5 years somewhere. So didn't understand that aspect of it, but if he wants to stay here, that cannot, I repeat, Eric, if Jerami Grant wants to stay here, that cannot play a factor in Joe Cronin's decision.
Yeah, because that's the weird part. Like, you would think if he's talking about stability, that means that he feels like the team wants him to stay long-term still. Because like you said, it's not like he's had like long stops or he's been here a long time. So to me, that might signify that the team is telling him that they still want him here. And that's, to me, just kind of weird with everything. I mean, I know Jeremy's a great guy, and they don't want to necessarily get rid of him. Like, people like having him around and stuff. That's not what I'm trying to say. But like, it just doesn't make sense in terms of where this team is at to keep him around.
Yeah,
and
we've had that conversation. It's pretty clear.
So yeah, to me, Jeremy knows that too. So like, him talking about stability, it makes me really worried that it's kind of like another Malcolm Brogdon situation where it's like, oh, well, we're going to keep him around because we need his veteran mentorship in the locker room or something, you know?
Hence my reaction to the quote.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the groan. All right, but at the same time, who knows what Cronin's telling him? I don't know what Cronin's telling him. Cronin could be saying, we want to keep you, but if a team gives us 2 first-round picks and another asset, we're trading you. And that's what they're asking for from the Lakers. And they can sit there and say, like, listen, we just can't say no to this trade, but we're also trading you somewhere where you can win. We're doing your agent a favor, right? Like, I feel like they could talk to Jerami like they are, still invested in him being on this team for whatever reason, while also playing the other side of the fence. Like, listen, we can still trade you because, certainly that is the hope. And then you had the report from Aaron Fentress that the goal is to trade one of him or Anthony Simons. Well, if that's true, then which one do they want to trade more is the question.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what the answer is. I think Jerami can get more. I think in a vacuum, they probably value these guys pretty evenly. So I think Jeremy's more likely to get traded for that reason. But who knows? Who knows what the Blazers' next step is? But apparently Jerami thinks the Blazers are stable. He might be the only one. I'm not even sure Cronin thinks the Blazers are stable, Eric.
Right. And I don't know. It just seems really strange that you would talk about this particular organization as stable, right?
Yeah. And of course that was just a Jake Fisher quote, so who knows where he got that notion from. But nothing with this organization is stable.
Mm-hmm. This isn't on the docket, but you mentioned Clutch. Did you see who Clutch's newest client is?
Yeah, my guy.
One Scoot Henderson has dumped his agent, and after 1 year, and now has Clutch
represented. Sure, it's only 1 year because he was in the G League, so it's probably longer than that.
Yeah, I meant. Yeah, I was just thinking NBA, but yeah, now that things can change like that, he probably had it for a little longer than that. But interesting that he would dump his agency for that.
You know what's funny is I see people groan at that. Like, oh, Scoot's a Clutch client. Half the league, it feels like, are Clutch clients at this point, so good luck avoiding Rich Paul. You're not going to be able to do it.
Nah.
So, people groaned at that. I groaned at the Jerami thing. I didn't groan at that because, Rich Paul, Eric, is inevitable.
So I guess people are saying his agent, like his family was his agent or something. I didn't know that.
Dang, he dropped his family?
They got a real agent.
Interesting. Well,
yeah.
It's not like he had to negotiate his rookie contract, right? So,
right. And
he still has 3 years until he has to negotiate a contract.
For the record, Chauncey's a Clutch guy. Nurk was a Clutch guy. Jeremy's a Clutch guy. Yeah. Blazers have a recent history of all those guys got taken care of by the Blazers in terms of getting a contract when they became free agents. So
what you're saying is Rich Paul's going to get LeBron to come here?
No, I'm just saying I don't think it matters in terms of if, oh no, Clutch client. Like, it's not like a few years ago when it was like Anthony Davis like getting traded because he's a Clutch client to LA. By now, like you said, half the league is a Clutch client, it feels like. So I just think Portland has a good enough reputation, and they weren't involved at all in the Dame saga stuff, so that wouldn't have affected anything. So I think the Clutch thing is kind of irrelevant to Portland. In fact, I think we have a pretty good standing with them, better than a lot of teams.
Yep. Next topic is, eventually, and you teased at it, there was another freaking report today on, I follow NBA Central on Twitter, right? So I kind of just see what they toss out there at this point. another report that the Blazers, I forget the phrasing, Eric, will eventually trade DeAndre Ayton or move off of DeAndre Ayton. And it's like...
But the market value right now is not where it needs to be or something.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, and I will eventually lose my hair. What are we talking about? Like, they drafted a center at 7. Of course, the center they draft is 7. They probably want to start one day, you would think, right? I mean, I thought that was a given, but apparently that's news.
Yeah. Sorry, we have a gentleman that... let's just say he likes to tag us in every little bit of Blazer news, which is fine. Like, there's no issue there. But I feel like he's tagged me like 3 times for NBA Central saying that we want to trade DeAndre Ayton this summer. Like, speaking of stale, you know, like it feels like we're just getting the same thing and we're just like, oh, this is news. Nope, it's not news. We've been talking about this already.
Yeah, I'm tired of it, man. I'm tired of it.
But
I'm over it.
I'm sure you would love to give yourself a pat on the back here, so I'll do it for you. This is something that you've been saying since a few months into the season last year, and then people thought you were all weird about it for even like considering that was a possibility, and then it comes out that, you know, the Blazers did have an issue with some of his attitude and he blames it on his bed or something. I don't know. I don't remember exactly the story.
Which listen, that's a worse excuse than the ice thing. I actually had his back in the ice storm thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there was some stuff with him being like late for team functions for the bus, things like that came out, and didn't seem to care a lot about time. But then he started playing well towards the end of that last season, so it was like, okay, are they okay with him now, or are they just still mad about the off-court stuff? And it didn't really. I wasn't sure until you heard nothing but Blazers want Klingon. Blazers want Klingon. They're trying to credit for Klingon. Like they are desperate to move up to get Klingon, and they don't even have to move up. He falls to them. You know, he was, if not the top player on their board, very near the top.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, teams do not act like that if they are content or happy with their current starting center. Now, you can think that a player is so good that it doesn't matter what players you have at that position, especially in Portland's situation where there's rebuilding. But it does not make sense the way the trade went down with Dame, getting DeAndre Ayton as like the biggest player back in that, the way they kind of tried to pump him up in the preseason and all that kind of stuff.
And then they didn't utilize him.
But then at the end of the year, they started utilizing him, and they're like, oh, he's changed, he's showing leadership qualities, and he's doing all this stuff. And then to immediately right after that be like, nope, we're gonna draft your replacement. Like, to a guy who has had like attitude problems with his coach and stuff and organization before, like none of that made sense if you were worried at all about keeping him long term and keeping him happy. So to me, that as soon as I started hearing the Klingon stuff, it meant like, oh yeah, the Blazers still never wavered off that. We don't really tied to this guy. We don't want to be tied to him long term.
Yeah, I mean, you're spitting nothing but facts, and I don't know what their plan was when they got him, because the guess was, okay, they just think this is a good value play to take a swing on, like, giving somebody a change of scenery and tapping into some of their, like, potential, right? Because DeAndre Ayton was the number 1 overall pick, and he's still young enough to not be in his prime yet. So, if you can tap into something, maybe he's a star center. But, like I always said, he hasn't gotten better the last 3 or 4 years. He hasn't improved at anything. Like, there's literally nothing in his game that you can point to and say he's improved since he was 21, 22 years old to now. So it's like, I don't care what his age is. I don't care what people perceive his potential to be, because if you don't improve from 22 to 26, why are you going to randomly improve when you're 26? Like, I think a lot of it was kind of attitude and stuff, but I don't know. Like, I don't think his situation in Phoenix was that bad. He had Chris Paul feeding him for a couple years. Like, he had scores around him, but he still had opportunities to, like, impose himself offensively, and he shied away from that. So I didn't think it was, oh, you bring him into whatever the hell Portland is, and that's going to be the scenery that brings something out of him. At the end of the day, I just don't think he's more than what he's shown. Like, he is what he is, and he's probably never going to be much more than that, because it would take a massive jump in a skill area that I just do not foresee. Like, I don't see him becoming a 37% volume three-point shooter. I don't see him becoming a perimeter ball handler. Like, where is all that growth going to come from? You can only do so much off of mid-range shots in dump-off plays around the rim. It's not like he physically imposes himself. We were begging him to dunk the ball earlier in the year. He had like 3 free throw attempts in his first 9 games. I mean, how many free throw attempts did he shoot a game last year? I still think it was below. I'm going to have to look this up because I forget. The thing is, we were never talking about his free throws attempts beyond just, man, he never gets the line. He shot in 32 minutes a game as an athletic center. He shot 1.4 free throw attempts per game. And it's not like he didn't have the ball in his hands, especially down the stretch. So he's not, in my opinion, worth a max. I think Portland brought him in saying, screw it, why not? Let's see if we can get something out of him. And then there was stuff earlier in the season that was not good. Later on in the season, when Ayton started getting force-fed the ball, though, oh, now he's a lot better and he's a veteran leader and this and that. You know what that just says to me? Ayton is happy and completely fine when he's getting his touches, but if not, he's a problem. And I don't know. The thing is the organization and people that know Ayton would tell you differently, but I don't know. I don't know how much of that is lip service because he's on the team, Eric. Like, and then they go and draft his replacement. So what does that say to you? I don't think they're as high on Ayton as they try and make it sound. I think the organization cares about narratives and is very cognizant of narratives, not only around its own front office, but also around the players on the team. And with Ayton, I think it's a lot of like, oh yeah, he was a really good locker room guy later on in the season, and they're amping that up. But what is the difference between early or late in the season and early in the season? Touches. I mean, if he's really acting that differently because of a bed, then that just kind of shows you, like, what I've heard from people that watch the Suns is he's very up and down. Either everything's great or he's pissed off. One or the other. Like, there's no middle ground with him. That's what I've heard. And I think that's kind of what you saw last year. So, I mean, I think it's clear that, A, there's no market for him, so he's going to be back next year. And B, he's not the long-term answer at center. I was saying that pretty much when we got him. You know, I was giving him a chance, but I still didn't think he was going to be the long-term answer. It's just funny how they, you know, already got his replacement. You're muted.
I think what happened was, thanks. At the beginning, or when they traded for him at the beginning of the season, they had to say that because they just traded away Dame. So, and he was the biggest potential piece from there. You already knew what you were getting from Brogdon. You knew what you were getting from Robert Williams, and you got it, an injury-prone big man. So, like, I mean, you know, you got Kamara, obviously, but he's like a second-round pick. Like they weren't going to be pushing that as the main part of the trade, even though they maybe should have to people like us. But, you know, to, like, the fans, like the casual fans, you're not going to pump the 52nd pick as, like, the main guy you got back. So they had to push this idea that DeAndre Ayton was just not used right in Phoenix and that he had a whole nother level he could get to and all that kind of stuff. And when you say it enough or like try to convince people, like maybe they started to believe that themselves. And, you know, and then he comes in here saying he's going to be dominating and all that kind of stuff. And, maybe they started to buy the hype a little bit. And then he comes out and doesn't really play well. And to his credit, he wasn't really. I mean, we know about the tardiness and things like that, but he wasn't outwardly malcontent to the media, or it didn't seem like his body language was terrible or anything, even though his numbers were way down. I would have thought you would have noticed it almost immediately when he came out after the first few months, averaging 12 points and not getting the ball much. So I think they very clearly early on last season determined okay, this is not a guy we can count on as part of our core moving forward. And that's why you and I both were in favor of potentially moving him for very little at the trade deadline. And, he played well enough to think that maybe that would have been a bad idea to just give him away for nothing or an expiring contract. But, you're still going to find a tough situation to trade someone making that much money if all the other teams know now that, okay, this is the second team that's been trying to dump him for relatively little. And, so I don't know how you easily get out of that situation short of just giving him away for an expiring eventually.
Yep. 100% agree. We got a wild donation, and then we got a BetUS segment, and then we'll talk about Cronin getting called out. Shout out to Pim with the $10 donation. Says, didn't Tori's guy... Okay, first wild thing, okay? He spelled Tori Tori. I'll give him a pass because he donated, and I'm a sellout, but Tori... That's the first wild thing, Eric. Didn't Tori's guy, Evan Turner... Shout out to Evan Turner. Evan Turner, never my guy, blocked me on Twitter, okay? Saying Evan Turner, my guy. Another wild statement.
I think he's being sarcastic.
I know. Well, I'm playing to it. Let me play.
Tori Johnsy.
That's wild. Didn't Tori's guy Evan Turner drove his car through his house or something? I think it was somebody else. I don't think it was Evan Turner.
Evan Turner was a garbage truck drive into his pool or something.
Yeah, somebody drove into his pool, which was wild. Okay, like I said, it was just a wild donation. Shout out to Pim.
Or a semi truck or something. Yeah,
I think it was a big vehicle.
Yeah.
Evan Turner was overpaid, almost as overpaid as Ayton. Okay, that's not wild at all. The contracts are wild that we're talking about with those two, but that statement, agreed. Evan Turner drove me a little bit more crazy than Ayton does. Thank you to Pim for the $10 donation. Appreciate you, Pim. I loved playing into that.
Evan Turner's half the contract. I mean, I know it was a few years ago. So.
Yeah. He was more than half the contract than it was a few years ago. Lesser salary cap, all that good stuff. So, at least Ayton, I don't know. I think Ayton's more worth his than Evan Turner was, to be honest.
What was Cronin thinking with that one?
Anyway, thank you, Pim, for the donation. And also...
Olshey.
Yeah, Cronin. I
don't know why I said Cronin. I meant Olshey.
You're just so obsessed with hating on Cronin.
Oh, and speaking of hating on Cronin, here we go.
What?
I'm trying to do your segues, man. Come on.
I don't get it.
What's our next topic?
BetUS ad read.
No.
I said that 2 minutes ago. We got to do a donation, do the BetUS read, and then we'll get to Cronin. So I ruined your segue, but also you kind of ruined your segue.
Sorry, man. I didn't hear that part.
And it's
not on the ticker, so.
Well, yeah, I didn't have at the start of this, I was like, I don't have enough things for the ticker. And then I was like, oh, I got enough, so I don't even got to put BetUS on the ticker. But we do got BetUS bottom left. This stream is powered by BetUS. And if you use our link in the description box below, you get a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. They're going to be with us all season long, so picks against the spread. I can't wait to redeem myself after I absolutely fell apart down the stretch. And... we like looking at lines, especially with different sports. It's a little fun way to spice up the streams courtesy of BetUS. And they got some fun NFL specials. One of the ones that I'm looking at, Eric, Bo Nix to play week 1. Shout out to you Ducks fans out there. I hate the Ducks, but shout out to you Ducks fans out there. Bo Nix to play week 1 is minus 250. I take that bet. I think he's pretty much a shoo-in to play week 1. I was listening to the radio today, listening to some dude out of Denver talk about how they basically wanted Bo Nix to like prove that he shouldn't start, and all he's done is prove that he should. So it sounds like Sean Payton is enamored with him. So shout out to you Ducks fans out there. You get to watch your guys start week 1, and you can bet that money line minus 250. Use the bonus that you get signing up for BetUS, and you can make those odds even better, basically. So check out BetUS. They also got other NFL specials, and they got NBA specials as well. First week 1 snap.
Oh, okay.
First week 1 snap.
Start.
Yeah, so they got like him. They got Minshew versus O'Connell, which is just disgusting there in Las Vegas. They got some other QB battles. Geno is minus 900 versus Sam Howell. No surprise there. So, it's always fun to take the long shot bets, but sometimes it just makes sense to take money when it's on the table, and I feel like that's what it is with Bo Nix. I feel like that's what it is with Russell Wilson and Geno Smith, although, who knows how injuries play into that, but you can also get in on NBA stuff as well if you don't watch football. They got a bunch of NBA futures. Right now, the Blazers are projected win total is 22.5. So if you think they're going to win more games than that, you can bet the over on that if you're feeling confident. Remember this time last year, Eric, when we had people that were saying, oh, the Blazers, they'll win 40 games. They'll make the playoffs. Where's our guy, Gray Hughes? Where's Gray been? My guy, Gray. Anyway, check out the link in the description box below. That's how you can get that 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. And it also supports the channel, supports BetUS. Shout out to them for sponsoring the stream. Eric, we're going to get into the good stuff here, okay? Joe Cronin has been called out by either Pat Riley or Rob Pelinka. Who knows? It might not be either of them, but
no, it's got to be one of those two, right? Who do you think it is?
You would think. I mean, maybe we'll do a chat poll. Who is this quote from? So, this was tweeted out by the Dunk Central. This was an Anthony Irwin article on LakersDaily.com. And basically, this article is interesting because it has Pelinka's primary trade targets this summer have been, I don't know if this list is in order, but it goes Jerami Grant, Kyle Kuzma, Bruce Brown, Cam Johnson, and Dorian Finney-Smith from the Nets, and Wendell Carter Jr. Right? There is a quote in this article right after that is something to behold. Okay? This is from a scout. So who knows? Maybe that scout is Pat Riley. Or maybe that scout is Rob Pelinka, because this is a Lakers Daily article. Who knows? But the quote says, Joe Cronin asking for 2 first-rounders for Jerami Grant is hilarious, said the same scout. Portland traded 1 first for him and then gave him that terrible contract. Why would he be more valuable now than he was when they landed him 2 years ago? But it's what you can do when you feel like the other team is desperate. End quote. So basically, this quote is saying, Portland, because they think LA is desperate, that's why they're asking for 2 firsts. But, Eric, as we all should know, this quote is missing a massive piece of context that I feel like destroys its credibility from the jump. And that is that Jerami Grant in Detroit had a handshake deal that if Jerami wanted to be traded to a location, that Detroit would abide by that and trade him to said location. That was part of the understanding when Jerami Grant signed there in free agency. And then Dame recruited Jerami Grant to want to come to Portland, and Jerami Grant told Detroit he wanted to come to Portland, and Detroit stuck true to their word and traded him to Portland. Now, that is a completely different scenario than Portland trading him to LA. So you cannot compare those two scenarios and just the value that the Blazers gave up for Jerami Grant in terms of the value they're asking back because of that handshake deal, which is why Portland was able to get him at such a good price. So coming from a executive or a scout or whoever try to say this crap just doesn't come across as very credible because it's missing that context.
And to add to that, the Blazers were one of only a couple teams that could outright take Grant's contract without sending any money back to Detroit. And Detroit used that trade exception / cap space to absorb a couple of contracts from the New York Knicks. I think it was Burks and Noel. And in return for doing that, got the 13th pick in that draft, which ended up being Jalen Duren. And so they basically had already kind of mapped out how they were going to utilize that savings to try and, because they had been rumored to want another late lottery pick to try to go after Duren. So this is a case where they not only had that agreement, but they also, I mean, they saved $21 million in the trade. So like Portland just absorbed Jerami outright, and that is not like factored in at all. And then also, I mean, as Landon points out in chat, I mean, Jerami shot 40% consistently now for 2 years in Portland, and has shown to be, efficient, being able to get to the line, things like that. So those are things that, I mean, you could say it was on a bad team again, just like in Detroit, but he did learn how to score and showed some things in Detroit that he hadn't showed at previous spots, being more of a role player off the bench. He turned himself into a legit 20-point per game scorer. And then when he came to Portland and they were trying to win, like I said earlier in the show, for that first stretch, he was still averaging, close to 20 points per game. And so, like, he's outplayed his value from that trade based on the last 2 seasons, and shot the ball well. And like you mentioned, that trade isn't even, you can't even break it down by just, this is what happened. They got a first round pick, because there was a lot more context to it.
Yeah, and leverage is actually a thing. So, like, this quote is trying to act like, oh, the only reason they want more is because, they think the Lakers are desperate. Well,
Right.
Portland has leverage. Like, it's not like leverage does not come into play at all. The Portland Trailblazers have Jerami Grant. They have the commodity. I bet there are multiple teams out there that would trade a first-round pick for Jerami Grant. That was not the case in terms of what Detroit was fielding when Jerami Grant told Detroit that he wanted to go to Portland. Because they were like, okay, we'll trade you to Portland. So, completely different context, completely different situations. I can't believe I am carrying water right now for Joe Cronin, right? Carrying water in my Blazers Uprise water bottle, okay? I'm carrying water for Joe Cronin right now. But quote's just kind of blasphemous and completely lacking context. So I have to. I've been forced to do this, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I can't lie.
Well, yeah, and I still don't understand how, like, his contract is that bad. It's not like he's already 34. He'll be 34 at the end of it. And it's still right around 20 or a little less than 20% of the cap as it goes along. I don't think that's that bad for your third, fourth option, that's pretty reasonable.
Yep. Kyle Wilson sums up this conversation perfectly. This article is acting like Portland is committing a crime or something because we aren't offering to hand over our best player for free. Lakers media is embarrassing. Well, see, this is why I was thinking maybe this quote is from Pat Riley.
Yeah.
These big markets, man. There's a sense of entitlement where they just expect these small markets to bow down. And Joe Cronin is not bowing down. Oh my God, I sound like a crony.
Well, Heat fans are back at it again too, using this quote to be like, "Oh, see, Portland should have taken our offer."
Yeah, man. Anyway, let's move on. Well, Zach says, isn't it impressive that he's able to shoot 40% on a bad team, 40% from three? I mean, it's impressive. 40% from three for a forward is impressive. On a bad, good, any team, like, that's impressive from an NBA three-point line in an NBA game. So, and that's what the Lakers need. And the article says he's not even that much better than Rui. Like, Rui overachieved shooting the three ball last year. I think if you just look at his stats, that's obvious. Jerami Grant has shot 40% from three the last 2 years. Like, you can put noticeably more stock in Jerami Grant's three-point shooting than you can Rui Hachimura's. Now, as a Rui fan, Zach legend, I'm hoping he turned a corner with his shooting and can continue shooting like that, just preferably in a different uniform than a Lakers uniform. He might have turned a corner, but you don't know. And the Lakers need guys that they know they can rely on. They can't sit here hoping that Max Christie can become a six-man-of-the-year candidate. Maybe he's the next Jordan Poole before he became washed super quickly, right? Like, hoping Rui shoots above 40% from three again. I mean, it's just too many things that need to go right for the Lakers to even have a chance. Whereas if you get a guy like Jerami Grant, you get that third proven scorer that can play on or off the ball, that can create, three-level scorer, and when used in the right defensive role, is an above-average defender. Portland just hasn't used him in the right defensive role. In rebounding-wise, the Lakers can rebound, so it's not like that's a problem. So you get a guy that noticeably makes your team better, and yeah, if you look at things through rose-colored glasses with players already on the Lakers, you can say, yeah, maybe he doesn't help them that much because everybody there, what if they all have great seasons? But it's more likely that they don't all have great seasons, and the most likely result is what the result has been, which is that they're not winning a championship. Which, when you have a LeBron James that's about to turn 40 and looks good right now in the Olympics, like, just looks ready to go, man. I mean, he's still very impressive. He still has it. You got to do everything you can to push the chips all in to push towards that championship, not sit here saying, man, maybe Rui can shoot above 40% from three again.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing that's crazy about that, okay, they have a new coach. They got, Cronin and Dalton connect. But other than that, they tried that last year and it didn't work, right? They were like, oh, we have all these guys and we just need to run it back and, these guys will outperform stuff. And then you had that year, like you mentioned, Rui outperformed his expectations or his previous shooting percentages and stuff like that. And they still barely made the playoffs and then got destroyed by Denver. So, like, the fact that they already said all these same things last summer. Oh, we're going to get a jump from within, and then did that. And then at the trade deadline, it was obvious they needed to make a move. Didn't. So now you're going to not make a move again for the third trade window. Like, it just makes no sense. KC24J says Vando healthy. I mean, yeah, like, Vando's healthy. Is that really the difference between a championship and a play-in berth? Because that's basically what needs to happen if you're the Lakers, right? Like, you have to try to win a championship, and I don't think Vando is the difference between that.
Yeah, we're talking about Jared Vanderbilt, man. I mean, that's what they need, is another non-shooter on the floor.
And he also had some moments for them the previous year. But he also had some moments where it was like, you can't play this guy too. Like, he's a little bit of both. Like, he has some games or some matchups where he's really effective and a really nice player to have, and then there's other series or teams you play, and it's like, wow, this guy can't shoot. He can't do much. There's there's nothing really for him to do in this game, so you can't play him. It's tough, man.
Yep. Before we get into our final segment, shout out to Pim with another $10 donation. Says, Tori, you're still high on Scotty Barnes. Eric, what would you trade to the Pacers for Tyrese Halliburton? I mean, I don't know if I've ever been higher on Scotty Barnes in consensus, to be honest. But I don't know. Scotty's okay. I don't think I've ever been a Scotty fan though. I think that at the time I thought the Raptors should have drafted Suggs ahead of him. Now, obviously, in hindsight, that's wrong. But I was always Suggs above Scotty.
Or is it?
Maybe it's not. I don't know. But Eric, what would you trade for Tyrese?
I mean, obviously, the Pacers aren't trading Tyrese, so it's. I don't know.
Would you trade Ant for Tyrese?
I mean, yeah. I think you'd have to, yeah. But then
I just wanted to see how easy of a yes I'd get out of you.
It wouldn't make sense with Scoot. I think, yeah. I mean, I would pretty much trade. Shoot. I don't know anyone. I mean, I don't think you say no to anyone on the roster for Tyrese if that was offered, right?
Yeah, I don't think you could. I don't know. Part of me feels like Scoot's going to be Tyrese-like as a passer.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's tough.
40% three-point shooter, too.
I love Tyrese. Well, yeah. But, I mean, like, not as good of a three-point shooter, but hopefully a better slasher. Hopefully. Yeah. I know his rim finishing has a long way to go, but, like, that's the thought. But, obviously, that's, like... Who knows? And Tyrese is already an all-star, right? So you kind of got to take Tyrese.
Yeah.
Hallie, Sharp, Denny, Grant. And here's the thing, though, also. I don't like Hallie and Sharp defensively. Hallie's not good defensively. He's rough defensively. Scoot was rough defensively as a rookie. The hope is that he can be better. So that's maybe, like, the one argument against it. What's funny is Halliburton coming, like, in college was thought of as, like, a good defender. Was coming into the league, like, thought of as somebody that'd be a good defender. Nobody thought he'd be this good of a passer, but people thought he was going to be a better defender. And then they questioned his shot because of his form. So it's just been kind of fascinating to watch him.
It's also tough, but Donovan Mitchell had that too.
Yeah.
But I think that comes into the thing we always talk about with, like, Anthony and Dame in years past. It's so hard when you have to break down defenses every time handling the ball, and then to have that energy to do it on both ends.
Yep. 100%. Real quick, Eric, you wanted to introduce this segment, okay? People have no idea what we're going to talk about. It just says favoritism. They probably think it's something spicy, but no, it's Eric's new segment. Favorite and least favorite thing from this weekend in sports. I'll let you start it off because it's your segment.
Well, it could also be personal. So,
just in general? Okay.
Yeah, so this could be more just, getting to know people in chat and getting to know personal stuff about us as well. So,
I don't have a personal life. I'll just say that now. I don't touch grass. I have no life.
So, yeah, on Mondays, I just thought it'd be cool to have some participation from chat. Just let us know what your favorite and least favorite thing, whether it was something that happened to you or something that you watched, a performance or something from the weekend. My favorite thing was... my daughter had a soccer tournament, so it's kind of sports. Yeah. For the second straight weekend, they had 7 games total over the last 2 weekends, and finally in the 7th game they got a win, and she was pretty excited. So it was cool to see them actually win a game instead of getting destroyed. So that was my favorite thing over the weekend. How about you, Tori?
I went to the Pickles game Friday night, and they were down like 5-3 in the 10th and had a walk off. It was pretty sick. Although,
Was
if you've
that the
ever been,
Blazer night?
yeah, it was a Blazer night. I did not go because it was a Blazer night, but they had a most obscure jersey contest, and the winner got like a poster, and the winner was Noah Vonleh. And I was just sitting there thinking, like, why the hell is Connor not here with this Archie Diacono Blazer jersey?
Oh man.
The contest was literally made for him. Yeah, least favorite thing? I don't know, man. I've been working like crazy and working on stuff through the weekend too. And I'll say this. Don't download the Albert app. That app, if you want to find ways to like lose money because of a scammy app, then download that app. Otherwise, don't download it.
What is that?
It's like a cash advance app. Yeah, just don't download Albert. That's my life advice today.
Were you there to witness Matisse Thybulle throwing a pickle as the
No,
first
I didn't see the
pitch?
pickle, but I saw him. I saw him at the stadium and was like, "Oh, that's Matisse." And then apparently a certain media member was also there, and got shouted out over the PA system, and that was also my least favorite thing this weekend.
Did you talk to any of them?
No, hell no. I just chilled, man. That's what I do. I chill. What's your least favorite thing from the weekend?
My least favorite was, if you're a hater, your least favorite thing was probably Noah Lyles winning the Revere Dash. That wasn't my least favorite, but yeah. I don't know. It was a good weekend, so I know I'm supposed to go. My least favorite was hearing the same old stupid Blazer rumors again.
Yeah, tired of the rumors, tired of all that. Anyway, chat, if you got any good ones, we'll read them off. Otherwise, we're gonna wrap up the stream. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us.
Chase says least favorite was Ayuk to the Steelers rumors.
Oh yeah, see, I was thinking about if it was sports related, that was gonna be my sports related thing. I'm tired of the freaking Ayuk rumors. He's getting traded, but I don't know if it's still Steelers. I'm tired of that.
Chapel captured some drone footage in God's Valley. That's cool.
It's pretty sick.
Kristen Faulkner winning gold in cycling. That was cool. And Barking Box lives here now.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Shout out to Box, man. I'm glad the move went well. Seattle Mariners won their series against the Phillies. Oh yeah, the walk-off walk. That was pretty fun. Watched that in VC with I think Connor was in there. Cheem was in there randomly. It was fun. Gotta love a walk-off walk. Arrow, yeah.
Nicholas says, boring Oregon's own Ryan Krausers three-peated in the shot put for a gold medal. So that's cool as well.
Nice. And then Jordan Childs got bronze in floor routine, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Vancouver legend. Just like your boy.
Just like. Yep.
Anyway, appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Thank you for joining the stream. It's been a fun stream. Numbers were popping today. I guess I need to make more titles about Joe Cronin drama getting called out and stuff. So appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We'll be back again Thursday. We'll try to make all these streams in August as fun as possible. We'll probably have some different topics as the rumor mill continues to get stale and sterilized and all that bad stuff. So any final words, Eric?
Next week, I'll be thinking about my least and favorite thing all weekend, so then we'll have better things, right?
Yeah. See, I was thinking about this while I was live this entire stream, so we'll have some good stuff for you guys. Anyway, Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Once again, shout out to BetUS for sponsoring the stream. Check out the link in the description box below. 125% deposit bonus. First 3 deposits up to $2,000. NFL season around the corner. Can't wait. Looking forward to that. It's going to be fun, man. I'm looking forward to more sports than just baseball. And Olympics, I guess. I guess we got every sport right now. What am I complaining about? Anyway, I'm out here. Hopefully you guys have a good rest of your night. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers!